Surprise! I know this isn't what you were expecting, but I just want to ask you a favor before we start the story. And that is, can you please like this video and the other ones? Subscribe to this channel. And if you work in a school, if you're a teacher, a counselor, a principal, if you could share this with your colleagues, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Sometimes you can't pay it back, so you just have to pay it forward. Randy Posh. It happened every Friday evening, almost without fail, when the sun resembled a giant orange and was starting to dip into the blue ocean. Old Ed came strolling along the beach to his favorite pier. Clutched in his bony hand was a bucket of shrimp. Ed walks out to the end of the pier, where it seems he almost has the world to himself. The glow of the sun is a golden bronze now. Everybody's gone except for a few joggers on the beach. Standing out at the end of the pier, Ed is alone with his thoughts and his bucket of shrimp. Before long, however, he is no longer alone. Up in the sky, 1,000 white dots come screeching and squawking, winging their way towards that lanky frame standing there on the end of the pier. Before long, dozens of seagulls have surrounded him, with their wings fluttering and flapping wildly. Ed stands there tossing shrimp to the hungry birds. As he does, if you listen closely, you can hear him say with a smile, "Thank you, thank you." In a few short minutes, the bucket is empty, but Ed doesn't leave. He stands there lost in thought, as though transported to another time and place. When he finally turns around and begins to walk back to the beach, a few of the birds hop along the pier with him until he gets to the stairs, and then they too fly away. And old Ed quietly makes his way down to the end of the beach and back home. If you were sitting there on the pier with your fishing line in the water, Ed might seem like a funny old duck, as my dad used to say, or to onlookers, he's just another old-timer lost in his own weird world, feeding the seagulls with a bucket full of shrimp. To the onlooker, though, rituals can look either very strange or very empty. They can seem altogether unimportant, maybe even a lot of nonsense. Too many people would probably write off old Ed on that Florida coastline. However, only a few people know his story and why he feeds shrimp to the seagulls. His full name is Eddie Rickenbacker. He was a famous hero in World War I and was also in World War II. On one of his flying missions across the Pacific Ocean, he and his 7-member crew went down. Miraculously, all the men survived, crawled out of the plane, and climbed into the life raft. Captain Rickenbacker and his crew floated for days on the rough waters of the Pacific Ocean. They fought the sun, they fought sharks, most of all, they fought hunger and thirst. By the 8th day, their rations ran out. No food, no water. They were hundreds of miles from land, and no one knew where they were or even if they were still alive. Every day across America, millions wondered and prayed that Eddie Rickenbacker might somehow be found alive. The men on that raft needed a miracle. That afternoon, they had a simple devotional service and prayed for a miracle. Then they tried to nap. Eddie leaned back and pulled his military cap over his nose. Time dragged on. All he could hear was the slap of the waves against the raft. Suddenly, Eddie felt something land on the top of his cap. It was a seagull. Old Ed would later describe how he sat perfectly still, planning his next move. With a flash of his hand and a squawk from the seagull, he managed to grab it and wring its neck. He tore the feathers off, and he and his starving crew made a meal of it, an exceptionally light meal for 8 men. Then they used the intestines for bait. With it, they caught fish, which gave them more food and more bait, and the cycle continued. With that simple survival technique, they were able to endure the rigors of the sea until they were found and rescued after 24 days at sea. Eddie Rickenbacker lived many years beyond that ordeal, but he never forgot the sacrifice of that first life-saving seagull, and he never stopped saying thank you. That's why almost every Friday night he would walk to the end of the pier with a bucket full of shrimp and a heart full of gratitude. We never know what adversity we might face, but when we put our talents, both mentally and physically, together, we can overcome it. We must never forget to thank those who helped us pull through and pay it forward, even if it was something seemingly so meaningless as a seagull. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.